What's going on, people? This is a special edition of the film review. Movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to mind. Don't forget to check out and order the film review t-shirts. Let me make sure I tag this person right here. Yeah, that's right. So listen, we have a special edition tonight because, you know, we are the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy D.
Tracy.
And we review culture and movies, music, politics, and society. And we come today with heavy hearts because, you know, we have to talk about this one because this is a real strange occurrence that has happened to one of the people who are making it happen in Hollywood, Kevin Hart.
Right.
So fill them in real quick on what's going on as far as the situation, and then we can get into the discussion.
Well, pretty much everyone knows that Kevin Hart has decided to not host the Academy Awards based on old tweets. Although he apologized numerous times, there's still many people are making an issue over it. So he's just like, look, I apologize multiple times, nothing else I can do about it. It's just best for me to withdraw from hosting the Oscars. So I don't know, for me, what stuck out for me, which was really irritating me, is the LGBT community. Them, as well as like other newspapers and organizations, they're saying this is a missed opportunity for Kevin Hart. So, and then they have different people from the LGBT community all saying the same thing. It's a missed opportunity. And my view on that is we can't pick and choose what we want to focus on.
That's true. Because
my view is, for the LGBT community, many have missed opportunities. For example, in Florida, London Moore was the 5th black transgender woman found murdered in little over 6 months. Now this is in Florida. And so that right there is scary. And prior to that, according to the Human Rights Campaign, disproportionately, there's a high rate among black transgender people when compared to other groups. Right? Now, this is according to the Human Rights Campaign. So they're saying that police harassment and physical assault, as well as arrests and incarceration among the black transgender community, is higher. So my thing is, where is the LGBT community? You know, when it comes to that issue. And then I was looking at the tweets from the different people from the community who all sent tweets to Kevin Hart. And I went to their pages, and then I kind of saw them kind of like picking and choosing. Like they talked about other things that had to do with the LGBT communities but as far as what's going on with the black LGBT and what they're dealing with, I don't see them making any noise. So you focusing on Kevin Hart, why? Is because he's a celebrity? So what about just the average everyday black transgender or gay or bisexual or lesbian, or just overall the black LGBT community? What about them? So that's a missed opportunity. How about focusing on that?
Now, see, you know, we labeled this.
Oh, just one last thing. Okay, and then not to forget, because they don't talk about this often, you know, when they're celebrating, you know, their pride festivals or whenever they're doing, which is fine. But Coretta Scott King, in August of 1983 in Washington, D.C., right, she urged the amendment of the Civil Rights Act to include gays and lesbians as a protected class. Now, that was due to the urging of Coretta Scott King. And they also mentioned this in the Martin Luther King documentary as well.
We're going to come to
So, I mean, I don't see you guys uplifting her. Like, she's not even acknowledged, like, in that community. We know of her and her fight for civil rights along with her husband, you know, on the side of her husband fighting the fight. But why are you quiet about what major role she played in making sure that the Civil Rights Act included gays and lesbians as a protected class?
You see, and that is the issue which is going on today. That's really the issue. Look, people are coming down on Kevin Hart about texts that he did back in the day. Do people have a right to have a different varying opinion on something? Listen, as much as people talk about black people all the time, they talk about us and they slam us and they do that all the time, and we don't necessarily take it in stride, but we don't say, okay, the words that you say are going to cause us harm. We don't say that, but let's get strict on that. Let's be very clear. If it wasn't for black people and the struggle in the civil rights movement, there wouldn't be civil rights for any other group. There were no other groups going out there and putting their bodies on the line to see that there was full treatment under the law, civil rights, human rights for basically, once it started for black people, but then it expanded out to all people. So, bottom line, you know, automatically, it's a situation where people are not recognizing who are the people who got them there, right? So let's go through it real quick. Bayard Rustin was the writer for Martin Luther King. He was openly gay back then during that time. He was openly gay, right? He was an activist, but you know what he was? He was black first. You know what I'm saying? Another person that's black first, James Baldwin. He was openly gay, but he was black first. Langston Hughes, right? Alice Moore Dunbar Nelson. Carl Phillips, contemporary today, who comes from the school of James Baldwin and speaks out about black rights. Listen, bottom line to this.
Did you mention Zora Neale Hurston?
You know what? I didn't find her on the list. I know she's from the Harlem Renaissance, but she wasn't listed as being LGBT. Well, if she is, she wasn't on the list, but we can add her in too. But her writings were about the condition of black people. These people were first black, and this is what we look to today when we watched Don Lemon on television today. That's why we posted this and called this an assault on the black community by the LGBT, right? How are you going to come down on a person that's from the black community who did apologize before, right?
Many times.
And many times before. You're going to come down on them, and that person embodies the very people who were out there fighting for there to be civil rights in the first place, that people take for granted now and act as if black folks didn't have anything to do with that. They didn't take the water hoses. They didn't walk and march. They didn't do all that, right? But yet you will sit up and then you will see people and they will remark, and again, they will not even touch on black people who are being abused because of who they want to be as a LGBT. I mean, LGBT. They don't even talk about that, right? But these are the very same people. These bodies are the very same people who made it possible to have civil rights anyway. And then you come down on Kevin Hart because he had some comedic tweets that you don't like. You're trolling, like he said.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have to apologize when he has apologized before. But no one seems to apologize when they're talking about black people. They can say anything that they want to say about black people, and we're supposed to just stomach it.
For example, 2016 British actor nominated for Best Actress here in America. She just happens to be a British actress, but she's part of the Academy Awards. She was nominated in 2016. Her name is Charlotte Rampling. Says diversity role is racist to white people. When many people question why there wasn't many black nominees, and her statement was, it is racist to white people to even question that, right? And this was in 2016. So when she made that racist comment, she also said, one can never really know, but perhaps the black actors did not deserve to make the final list. Maybe that's why they're not in any of the different categories. This is what she stated. And this is Charlotte Rampling, right? 2016, okay? So, but there wasn't a lot of noise. You know, where was all of the Twitter trolls? Where was the TMZs? Where was, everyone saying this woman shouldn't be a nominee? This woman shouldn't step foot across the Academy Awards stage. What was all that noise when she made a racist comment? And she was an Academy Award nominee.
Yeah. It's like when you sit there and you watch this, we have to first get that word diversity out of the black people's consciousness and out of the lexicon of black people. Because when you look at what diversity really means, diversity means for every 5 black bodies, there is one white person patrolling, right? You can say for every now the police do something like when they do parties. This is a correlation to what we're talking about here. For every 100 people that are in a party, there's supposed to be one police officer, right? For crowd control, right? So you're saying that for black people, for every 5 black persons, there is one white person to monitor them. So that's what the word diversity really means. So we have to get diversity out of the lexicon and speak on multiculturalism, but not multiculturalism where there's just 1 or 2 black people sprinkled in, but where there's a true multiculturalism that is truly representative of the population of the earth, right? Then we'll be talking about that. So we labeled this the assault on the black community by the LGBT because it is an assault. That coming down on Kevin Hart, who is in Hollywood. And isn't it strange that here he is, he just started his company and he's starting to release not only comedic films, but he's getting ready to release his first drama film. And feel good dramedy. I would say it's more dramedy because there's some laughs in there. And he's getting ready to release that, and he's making his way up in Hollywood, and then all of a sudden this comes out of the clear blue when this is the ascension up. They did the same thing in a different vein to The Rock.
Yeah.
Coming out talking about The Rock votes Republican or something like that.
Something
about maybe like 3
with.
weeks ago. But most people, I found that there are a lot of black people who still vote Republican because Lincoln was Republican, and they didn't get the memo that when Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, the Voters' Rights Act, and the Fair Housing Act of '68, they didn't get the memo that the Dixiecrats at the time switched over to the Republican Party and said that the Democrats would never take the South again. They didn't get the memo that the Dixiecrats went over to the Republicans, and so you would know what the Republicans are about. But some people didn't get the memo because they still think that the Republican Party is Lincoln and the Democrats were the ones that originally were Dixiecrats, okay? So people don't know that. So it's the same thing with that. So The Rock, his people probably traditionally voted Republican, or maybe they didn't.
But see, my thing is, we don't know if that's true or not.
That's true.
But my point is, why is it that as soon as The Rock, Dwayne Johnson is executive producing projects, putting out his own films, and same with Kevin Hart, just off the heels of his successful film with him and Tiffany Haddish, his film, you know, not just starring in it, one of his projects. As soon as they're putting their own money behind their projects, their films, doing well, successful, making money, they're zeroing on them. You know, so why is it that we don't know the political party of what's his name, Mark Wahlberg or whatever,
right? Or
Chris, what's his name, the Mission Impossible man, Tom Cruise, or you know, so you know, who's to say what The Rock is? You know, if he's Democrat, Republican, whatever, who cares?
But that's supposed to cause black people.
It's supposed to, yeah. It's just like a little to get upset and just turn against The Rock and stop seeing his films and turn against Kevin Hart but yet, what about all of these other white people? You know,
what
it's
about
like
the white people?
They tend to zoom in on successful black people.
That's it.
And if they feel they're doing too well, they have to figure out a way to knock them down a couple of pegs. Because I want to know why Harvey Weinstein, quiet, crickets, right? Okay, now Bill Cosby's in jail, so they're not talking about Harvey Weinstein anymore, or Kevin Spacey anymore, or you know, the rest of them. It's where's the Me Too on that? You know, so it's as clear as day.
And the last time we heard, they were reducing charges on Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Bill Cosby is in prison, for something that
based on what was said, and no physical evidence. So I mean, I'm just tired of the bullshit. And then what is it saying? You can fool some of the people some of the time, but not all of the people all of the time. It's a bunch of bullshit.
It's like this. We stand up here and we're black first when it all comes down to it. We sat up there and we watched Don Lemon invite Kevin Hart onto CNN to talk about and say that this is an opportunity. He could possibly be a advocate or ally advocate for LGBT. Well, wait a minute now. His embodiment of who he is and how he's pushing through Hollywood is already there. He's already civil rights. He's already human rights. Right? So for people like Don Lemon, I have to say, Don Lemon has to make a choice. I read off some of the names. Let's read them again. James Baldwin. James Baldwin in particular. Because James Baldwin, you knew that he was openly gay, but he was out there fighting the power, and he didn't say, I'm gay first. That's where the confusion happens. You say you're gay first, and then for some reason, okay, there we go. Okay, look. So James Baldwin was for black first. He spoke on it, and he said that he was, everyone knew he was openly gay, but he fought the power. And so that's what it is now. People like Don Lemon have to make a choice.
Right.
They have to say, am I black first or am I gay first? And they have to come around. Black people, the LGBT that are European American or Caucasian seem to be missing in action. You mentioned that. They seem to be missing in action when it comes to issues that have to do with the black people that they seem to bring out and say, yes, we're helping them. Right? We're helping them, we're helping each other, but really they're not. There's always been a break. Have you watched the show? Have you watched the show Pose? Have they watched the show?
Oh, okay. On FX.
On FX.
Good show.
We don't watch the show because they're gay. We watch the show because it's black
executive producer
and Latino.
Yeah.
It's a black and Latino story.
Well written.
That tells the story of, if you've never seen the film called Paris is Burning, where the homosexual population that did what they call houses, and they did the trans dressing where they dressed as women and they performed as women. If you've never seen that film, you have to see that film because it's talking about a transition coming from out of the early to mid 80s coming into the 90s, and they called it Paris is Burning because they didn't know where the drag queens and the queens didn't know where they were going because the regentrification was starting, and you know, as you get older, it just in general, when people are in the entertainment, because I would call them entertainment, so I'm correlating it to entertainment. When you're in the entertainment business, you only have a small window to get through, and if your dreams don't come through, then you're sitting there looking and saying, what am I going to do? Because time moves on. Time doesn't wait for any man or woman. Time moves on, right? So when you watch that, we cannot, you know, as black people, we cannot keep repeating the same things over again and believe that it's going to be a difference. And I would say to the black LGBT that you cannot keep repeating the same things over and think that it's going to be, or you can't keep going to the white LGBT who prove that they don't care about you because they will hit at a person that is black. Now, they will hit at a black person, who said something years ago, who they apologize for. They will hit at that instead of hitting at the issue of black trans people being murdered
today.
Right? They will hit at that and not hit at that. And them hitting at a black person is, unfortunately, if you want to realize it or not, is hitting at you because, again, Kevin Hart, of who he is and where civil rights came from, where the human rights fight came from, he is the embodiment of civil rights. So him pushing through means that all black people are able to push through, because when you look at who Martin Luther King's speechwriter was and who was an activist himself, it didn't matter to Martin Luther King that he was openly gay. Let's push this through and get this done. So Kevin Hart succeeding in Hollywood, producing movies, employing people, hosting the Oscars is the embodiment of what you want. So that comes down to Don Lemon opening it up for Kevin Hart to come on for the LGBT when he should have been opening it up as a black person. Come on and talk about the civil rights fight, and then correlate it that way. Don Lemon has to choose and has to say that he's black first, because
Caitlyn Jenner, who's a part of the LGBT community, chose. She voted for Trump.
Sure did.
Right? So they they put white first.
That's right.
Then they're LGBT.
And so this is an anti-black agenda by people who have profited off of what black people did during the civil rights movement, starting way back with the Pullman Porters, leading up to what was happening with Martin Luther King. Okay, and so we're not going to get into the politics of going into the burning house and all that. We're not going to talk. We're going to talk about that. This is what it is, and when you attack a black person, you are attacking the embodiment of civil rights. And the only reason why people get away with attacking black people is because we as a whole don't know the history. And we as a whole have been infiltrated by different immigrants who have come in who look like us but don't understand the battle that was happening, because like Red Pill was on the radio today. You can go to see that Like It Is episode. It's right underneath the page on Crazy on Dion. And he was on there and he was talking about the immigrants that come to the country that look like us, but they come from shanty towns, and when they come, Like It Is episode. Okay, so like I said, so he was on there and they said they talked about they come from shanty towns, and then when they come there, they say your situation isn't that bad, and automatically when they come in, they tell them do not deal with black people because they're poor, such and such, la-di-da-di, da-di-da. But they forgot to tell you that the people who tell you don't deal with the black people here. Black people, the reason why you have your rights is because those people are the ones who put their bodies on the line so America would be better, because if they had never put their body on the line, you wouldn't be able to walk into America and have the opportunity. So this is very important that the LGBT, while they're profiting, the white ones are profiting, using the black bodies to profit off of civil rights, they should lessen up off of people who are the embodiment of civil rights. So this is an anti-black agenda. That's the only way that you can put it down. And we as a people who suffered and struggled to be free of harassment, bodily harm, getting lynched, getting drawn and quartered. This is just during Jim Crow era. Being chopped up, body parts chopped up, cooked, eaten after being burned at the stake. I mean, we need to tell this. This is what actually happened. All these people, we fought for that, and you cannot say ever legitimately that the struggle for LGBT is the same as the civil rights movement, because you don't know all of the history. When you let us know when the LGBT was burned at the stake and then body parts cut off, or knuckles put in the butcher shop, so that people can buy them to eat them. Let us know when that happens, and let us know when you're a victim of cannibalism because of your LGBT status. Let us know that. So this is why they need to lessen up, let up off of Kevin Hart. I'm just tired of people picking and choosing. So since we want to pick and choose who we gonna mess with, how about on Saturday Night Live, Melissa Villasenor, she's still on the show. They didn't kick her off the show for racist tweets. In 2016, they talked about one of her tweets, "Jolly black people are the best. Just laugh with one right now." Co-worker at Forever 21 dates black guys, and she says she will set me up on a blind date for Valentine's. I said yes, but I'm scared. And then she says, another tweet, now these are her old tweets just like Kevin Hart, "I hate those Mexicans on bikes. They threw something at my car. The world doesn't need them." Right? My roommate's dog resembles an old Japanese man.
Okay, so shall I go on? Let's see. A bossy black lady at my temp job right now looks exactly like Steve Urkel, ugly, right? So I'll just stop with her tweets.
Okay.
And she's still on Saturday Night Live right now, and there was no big hoopla. You know, NBC, they didn't get rid of her. She's still on the show.
Because that was just jokes. That was her showing her satire. That was satire, though. That wasn't. That, I mean, that's what they're saying.
Oh no, they'll say
but
she's just a comedian telling jokes. What about Kevin Hart?
Let's find that. Let's find the tweet. Hopefully, she didn't do anything about the LGBT. You see, You see what it is. You see, we have a forgiving spirit, but yet the people who profit from off of what was done in the civil rights movement don't have a forgiving spirit.
Right.
But yet you're going to come at a person that again embodies what it is to be in the civil rights and human rights struggle enough. Now let's get to,
wait, one more thing. How about Judy Garland in blackface?
Oh yeah.
In the film Everybody Sings, right?
Should we take back Oscars?
So are they going to take back her Oscars and all her awards Now this is Judy Garland in blackface again in the film Everybody Sings.
And the countless European American actors that have had tweets that they have said, or Facebook posts, or emails, or whatnot, where they have said racist things. I mean, there wouldn't be anyone. I don't think there would be that many people left in Hollywood. You know,
I don't
because
think so either.
the way they have you ever seen that show? They only gave it one season. Almost White Famous, or White Famous. It was executive produced by Jamie Foxx, and when you watch that, you can see it on. I think it's on Showtime. On Showtime on demand. They gave it one season because when you watch the show, they were exposing what it's like to be a black person pushing through the ranks of Hollywood, and just the nonsensical, non-conscious thinking of those who are European American, who are in power, who just speak nonsense to black people, and it's just inherently racist. And they canceled it after one season, but the show was hilarious, and they showed you. It's just like if you go. We've talked about Paul Mooney before. It was like that. If you go to a Paul Mooney stand-up, Paul Mooney again, he'll talk about black people. He'll talk about all the different races, and the white folks will be laughing. But then all of a sudden, when he starts talking about white folks and the whole nonsensical way that they act within their inherent racism and bigotry, all of a sudden people want to get up and walk out. They want to sit there and huff and puff and be angry, but you were laughing during all the other jokes about the people, but when it comes to you can't. So they only gave it one season, but you should definitely watch that show. It was exposing some truths about what's happening in Hollywood. And so let's go back to the Oscars. Remember the Oscars when they had the hashtag Oscars so white, and everyone was upset about, it wasn't. So what did they do? They knew they weren't going to give many awards to black films, but what did they do? They appeased it by bringing in a black host. So it was Chris Rock. So Chris Rock came in, and it was supposed to smooth it all over, and that was during the presidency of Cheryl Boone Isaacs. She is no longer the president of the Academy. Now it is John Bailey, who they just turned it right back over to. He looks like he's a European American Caucasian, and they just turned it back over there to him. So I was wondering, because when we first heard about this, we thought that she was still president, but they get 4 years and then they have to move on and have a new election and bring someone else in. Because I was like, wow, this is strange that she would even stand up, or even stand up and not say, this man embodies what civil rights and human rights is, so you wouldn't come at him because he has already apologized. And I like that he went and he sincerely apologized again, but he pulled because he said, I'm not going to be a distraction. But really what he's saying in translation is, I'm not going to be raked through the coals for something that you don't realize that I am the embodiment of human rights and civil rights. Black people are the embodiment of civil rights and human rights. So we've got John Bailey. He's the president of the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences, and he is doing, in my opinion, not too great of a job of handling this, because you know what happened? They didn't care. The Academy didn't care under Cheryl Boone Isaacs. They didn't care, and they went when they found out that they weren't going to have many films, and they were pretty good films during that time, and they said Oscars so white. They didn't go and worry about if the black people were going to watch it or not. They brought in a host that they thought that the people will watch it. So the same thing with the LGBT community. If they're going to boycott the Oscars, they'll be back. I mean, that's the truth. Right?
Yeah.
They'll be back. You know, because the film industry, from what I can just see, from what I see, it seems like to me that there's a power structure going on that has to do with the haves and the have-nots, and it appears to me that there have been gay people in power in Hollywood for a long time, so there shouldn't be any complaint, except for, just like anything, they have to make people feel that they're the same as them, so that people won't look at them and say, why do you have so much and I don't? Same thing with Trump did with the people who he used their racism against them to elect them. Right? And then he keeps the thing, it's them, it's the other, it's the other, it's the other. It's not me, but it's people like him that are oligarchs, or want to be oligarchs, in my opinion, that are keeping them down. So that's what it is. And so they should let up on Kevin Hart, because if black people then become as rigid as they want to become, and say that this is truly a anti-black agenda at the hands, and we suffer at the hands of the LGBT community, then it could be like really bad, because then black people who happen to be LGBT don't have to stand on the front lines with the white LGBT, and then the white LGBT will see that the people who look like them, the whites that look like them, that they want to take their side on everything other than getting money for the LGBT, in my opinion. They will find that those people who they want to be like will then say, well, you don't have the backbone of the people who are traditionally the embodiment of civil rights and human rights in this country. So enough of coming on black people, because without black people, all of this crumbles. Without black people's cooperation in politics, this crumbles. Without black people's participation in every sector of this country, every little bit, everywhere you turn, you see us there. Without our cooperation, this falls. So let up off of Kevin Hart. Anything else you want to say on that?
It looks like The Wizard of Oz won an Oscar award.
Oh, we're talking about Julie Garland now, her blackface.
Right. So she was in blackface, and The Wizard of Oz won an Oscar award. So they didn't take that.
She wasn't in blackface then, but she was in blackface. And they didn't take that back.
She was in blackface.
You know what I mean?
And so, although it wasn't the same film, but hey, if we're being petty, everybody could be petty.
What is his name? I forget the two letters.
Why would you give an Oscar to someone who was in the film that wore blackface, which was very demeaning to black people?
What about G.W. Griffith?
Yeah, Birth of a Nation.
And Birth of a Nation. Like, they still consider that one of the greatest films, and they still talk about his cutting and that he made modern film, and this is the way it is, and they still give him greatness. And Charlie Chaplin actually worked with this guy.
Right.
They actually started United Artists together, along with Mary Pickford. Isn't that how the story goes along? And should we go ahead by association and strip them of all their greatness and say that G.W. Griffith brought about and created the resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan that has done damage to black bodies?
Right.
You know, again, as W.E.B. Du Bois wrote and said, knuckles of a lynched black man in the butcher shop, in the window where people will come in to buy it, to eat it. I mean, this is what we're talking about, and this is why when people say, oh, LGBT is just like, no, it's not.
Right, no.
Because let us know when you got cannibalized.
Right.
Let us know when you were drawn and quartered. Let us know when you were castrated. Let us know when you were lynched. Let us know, and this is after slavery.
Right.
This is Jim Crow.
Right.
And let us know when police shoot you down just because you are the embodiment of being LGBT. Okay? Let us know when police brutality, when your police brutality towards you as a LGBT is the same as a black LGBT at the hands of police.
Coretta Scott King fought for the LGBT community. So why
would you
why the LGBT community, why they're not fighting, you know, along with us in turn against police brutality against black people?
That's right. So once you know the truth about the history, then you have a weapon to fight with, to get into the discussion and say, look, this is what's happening. If it wasn't for Martin Luther King and Bayard Rustin, who he agreed with and said, I don't care what you're doing, my man. You're here, you're writing for me, you're an activist, let's fight this out. Let's get this done. And then later, Coretta Scott King working to get it done. You wouldn't have rights today. Because those whites that are bigots are also sexist, also anti-gay, also all that. You wouldn't have rights because those were the same people who said they didn't want to give you rights. And here this woman is fighting for you, and in turn you would turn around and totally ignore the black LGBT, and you would turn around and then go against a guy who again embodies civil rights and human rights in the embodiment and the person of Kevin Hart. For those who are just tuning in, we are talking about the anti-black agenda that it appears to be happening at the hands of LGBT, European American LGBT. Okay, so when y'all get a chance, y'all be able to rewind and watch the whole piece. So we've covered a lot today as far as that's concerned. And again, in closing off this subject before we get to homecoming, once you know the history of what's happening and that the LGBT community would not have even been let into the civil rights discussion if it wasn't for Coretta Scott King, and if it wasn't for Martin Luther King, and if it wasn't for the black bodies that put themselves on the line for civil rights, for human rights, you wouldn't even have the laws protecting you because they didn't want to let you in. People who are European Americans who you would turn against the black people. All right, people. Let me tell you something about Facebook. I'm going to say this. Every time we get onto a topic and we talk and we're hitting important points and it's something that they don't agree with, they must have some bots and there must be some key words that are said and then they block it out for a while. So where was I? Okay. When you as a group of people, LGBT, European American LGBT, do not respect how you got your civil rights in the first place, coming through a black body, black bodies who put themselves on the line for civil rights and human rights, you wouldn't have it. And then to go and talk against a man who embodies all of that, you are sadly mistaken. And once you know the history and you know the truth and you know what it is, then you say, lay up off us, because if we choose and our people who happen to be gay choose to pull from the LGBT European American movement and start their own where it's more in line with black first civil rights and human rights, the funding and the money will dry up. So stop this trolling. I mean, we're just saying it comes down to a time when stop this trolling, because you wouldn't have civil rights if it wasn't for Coretta Scott King pushing through, because she knew what Rustin did for the movement. And that's what it is. That's what it is. So now, anything you want to say in closing before we move on to Homecoming?
No, he said about...
Okay, so I mean, this is clear. Go back and get that information, write it down so that you can have the information necessary to say, look, this is what was happening. And then, you know, if you want to know more, go Google that and you will see what was happening and what is happening and why black bodies, period, in any aspect in this society should be utmost respected for the sacrifice that has been done for civil rights and human rights. Now we got that. I almost don't want to end that, but we got to move on, because you know we are the film review, and you know on Amazon Prime they have shows, and you know they have a show called Homecoming. Homecoming is based on a podcast. You know, it went from being a podcast and turned into a live action limited series, which is 10 episodes. And the basic premise of it is, if I can read this, because I wrote down a little synopsis of it, based on a podcast about a facility that appears to help soldiers with PTSD, and a strangely romantic relationship begins between a counselor and a patient. But will they have time? And that's pretty much what it's about. But the acting in it is superb. It has an all-star cast. You know, Julia Roberts, she headlines the cast. You know her from Pretty Woman and one of our favorite films by her, which is My Best Friend's Wedding. If you haven't seen that, you have to see that. Then there's Stephan James. You saw him in Race, which was about Jesse Owens. And also, he's going to be in a new film that we're going to be reviewing soon called If Beale Street Could Talk.
Based on Baldwin's book.
James Baldwin. There it is. See how these things come back around. You see what I'm saying? And remember, Baldwin was black first. Okay.
You said
Jeremy.
Stephon James.
Yeah, Jeremy Allen White.
Right.
You know him from Shameless.
Yep.
He's the middle brother.
Lit.
Yep. And you know, he does a great performance. He stretches his range in there, even though he's supporting.
Right.
He's integral within telling the story.
Right.
Then we have I can't even read my own writing here.
Is it Bobby?
I can't even read. Carnival.
Yes.
Carnival. That's it.
Yes.
Bobby Carnival. Now you remember him from Boardwalk Empire.
Right.
He was the crazy.
Right.
Just the crazy dude. He was psychotic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Choking himself with the belt.
Yeah.
You know, doing that asphyxiation thing, the same thing that they say killed David Carradine in Thailand. He was doing that with his belt. But he was just a gangster. And then, you know, when they ended the show so because they just wanted to end it, and they just destroyed everybody when they could have been spinoffs from that show. But anyway, that's another story. Then we have Shea Wigham. He's he played the brother of I can't think, Boardwalk Empire of Lucky, right? No, Lucky Luciano, but I can't think of
the
his
character
name. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But he plays the brother. He plays an excellent role in there as the agent.
Right.
In the piece that's researching this. And then there's a coal miner's daughter comes up. You know, Sissy Spacek is in the film also, and she's phenomenal playing Julia Roberts' mother in the piece. Julia Roberts' character's mother in the piece.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't seen Homecoming, I gave you this quick synopsis of it. You have to see it.
And also Dylan McDermott. He also was in
he was the friend. Dylan McDermott was the friend in my best friend's wedding. Right. So they hook up on screen as boyfriend girlfriend this time, whereas it was best friends before. So matter of fact, see all those films that we talked about, see all those shows, you know, you can see them on demand now. And definitely see Homecoming. Sit there and have the time to binge watch that boy. To binge watch. And also something that we saw that I don't have on the paper to talk about, but we just saw episode 6 of Ray Donovan. And I can tell you that is one of the most angering episodes of the show. The daughter.
Well, if someone has
the daughter, I'm just saying the daughter.
Yeah.
We're just gonna say she has always been a problem, and we're not gonna tell you what she did, but just watch that. But go back and watch it. Like, we got to go back and watch the first 5, but that happened to come up because we've been busy. We've been busy reviewing movies in the theater. We hadn't had time. We got to go back and binge watch this season's 1 through 5 to get to 6.
Right. Actually, on the way to the theater now.
Yeah. So stay tuned, people. We are out here. This is episode number 33. 33 episodes of the film review. And we enjoy bringing it to you, and we had to bring this topic because
actually I think we're late. We missed the last show.
Okay. Well, we'll be going soon. But we had to bring this topic to you because enough is enough, and we have to now begin to assert ourselves as the people who brought about civil rights, who pushed and pushed and pushed and put our bodies on the line so that some people who did have some compassion would push along with us to get civil rights and human rights and all that put into this society. And even though they're trying to move us backward, we're still in the struggle. So we have to begin now to research our history. Back when we were doing it in the 90s, you had to go do the Dewey Decimal System. You had to go through the microfiche. You had to go find the books. You had to read the books. Now you can just Google it. You can Google it and get all the information. It's so much easier today. And you know, even though it's that easy, easier than going to the library. You go to the library to find out the lies that are buried. You go to the library to find it out. Even though it's easier, people choose not to just use it. They use the internet for anything else except for to learn about our contribution to the world. You know what I mean? Our contribution to straightening out America, right? Our contribution to straightening out America. So this has been another significant and great episode of the Film Review. Movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to our minds. We are the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy D.
I'm Tracy.
And we review culture in movies, music, politics, and society. And we will see you next time on the Film Review.
Good night.